The city has been emptied of most civilians, Yoeli said as he and Aitaraldo walked through Maradon's gate. We're close to the Blight. This is not the first time we've evacuated. My own sister Sigrun leads the last riders, who will watch from the ridge to the southeast and send word if we should fall. She will have sent word to our watchposts around Saldaea requesting aid. She will light a watchfire to alert us if they come. The lean-faced man looked at Aitaraldo, his expression grim. There will be few troops who could come to our aid. Queen Tenobia took many with her when she rode to find the dragon reborn. Aitaraldo nodded. He walked without a limp. Antail, one of the Ashaman, was quite skilled with healing. His men made a hasty camp in the courtyard just inside the city gates. The Trollocs had taken the tents they'd left behind, then lit them on fire at night to illuminate them feasting on the wounded. Aitaraldo had moved some of his troops into the empty buildings, but he wanted others close to the gate in case of an assault. The Ashaman and Aes Sedai had worked to heal Aitaraldo's men, but only the worst cases could get attention. Aitaraldo nodded to Antail, who was working with the wounded in a roped-off section of the square. Antail didn't see the nod. He concentrated, sweating, working with a power Aitaraldo didn't want to think about. Are you certain you want to see them? Yoeli asked. He held a horseman's long spear on his shoulder, the tip tied with a triangular black and yellow pendant. It was called the Trader's Banner by the Saldaeans here. The city bristled with hostility, different groups of Saldaeans regarding one another with grim expressions. Many wore strips of black cloth and yellow cloth twisted about one another and tied to their sword sheaths. They nodded to Yoeli. Desia gavane sierta quendar esain Carenton, Aitaraldo thought. A phrase in the old tongue. It meant, a resolute heart is worth 10 arguments. He could guess what that banner meant. Sometimes a man knew what he must do, though it sounded wrong. The two of them walked for a time through the streets. Maradon was like most borderland cities. Straight walls, square buildings, narrow streets. The houses looked like fortressed keeps, with small windows and sturdy doors. The streets wound in odd ways, and there were no thatched roofs, only slate shingles. Fireproof. The dried blood at several key intersections was difficult to make out against the dark stone, but Aitaraldo knew what to look for. Yoeli's rescue of his troops had come after fighting among the Saldaeans. They reached a nondescript building. There would be no way for an outsider to know that this particular dwelling belonged to Vram Torkumen, distant cousin to the queen, appointed lord of the city in her absence. The soldiers at the door wore yellow and black. They saluted Yoeli. Inside, Aitaraldo and Yoeli entered a narrow staircase and climbed 3 flights of stairs. There were soldiers in nearly every room. On the top floor, 4 men wearing the Trader's Banner guarded a large gold-inlaid door. The hallway was dark, narrow windows, a rug of black, green, and red. Anything to report, Torrin? Yoeli asked. Not a thing, sir, the man said with a salute. He wore long mustaches and had the bowed legs of a man very comfortable in the saddle. Yoeli nodded. Thank you, Torrin, for all you do. I will stand with you, sir, and will at the end. May you keep your eyes northward but your heart southward, my friend, Yoeli said, taking a deep breath and pushing open the door. Aitaraldo followed. Inside the room, a Saldaean man in a rich red robe sat beside a hearth, sipping a cup of wine. A woman in a fine dress did needlework in the chair across from him. Neither looked up. Lord Torkumen, Yoeli said, this is Rodel Aitaraldo, leader of the Domani army. The man at the hearth sighed over his cup of wine. You do not knock, you do not wait for me to address you first. You come during an hour when I have spoken of my need for quiet contemplation. Really, Vram, the woman said, you expect manners from this man? Now? Yoeli quietly rested his hand on the hilt of his sword. The room held a jumble of furniture. A bed on the side of the room that obviously didn't belong there, a few trunks and standing wardrobes. "So," Vram said, "Rodel and you're one of the great captains. I realize it might be insulting to ask, but I must observe formalities. You realize that by bringing troops onto our soil, you have risked a war?" "I serve the Dragon Reborn," Aitoralda said. "Tarmangaiden comes, and all previous allegiances, boundaries, and laws are subject to the Dragon's will." Vram clicked his tongue. "Dragon Sworn. I had reports, of course. And those men you employ seemed an obvious hint. But it is still so strange to hear. Do you not realize how utterly foolish you sound?" Aitoralda met the man's eyes. He hadn't considered himself dragon-sworn, but there was no use calling a horse a rock and expecting everyone else to agree. "Don't you care about invading Trollocs?" "There have been Trollocs before," Vram said. "There have always been Trollocs." "The Queen," Yoeli said. "The Queen," Vram interrupted, "will soon return from her expedition to unmask and capture this false dragon. Once that happens, she will see you executed, traitor. You, Rodel Aitoralda, will likely be spared because of your station. But I should not like to be your family when they receive the ransom demand. I hope that you have wealth to accompany your reputation. Otherwise, you shall likely spend many of the next years as a general to nothing more than the rats of your cell." "I see," Aitoralda said. "When did you turn to the shadow?" Vram's eyes opened wide and he stood. "You dare name me DarkFriend?" "I've known some Saldeans in my time," Aitoralda said. "I've called some friends. I've fought against others. But never have I known one who would watch men fight shadow spawn and not offer to help." "If I had a sword," Vram said. "May you burn, Vram Torkumen," Aitoralda said. "I came here to tell you that on behalf of the men I lost." The man seemed shocked as Aitoralda turned to go. Yoeli joined him, pulling the door closed. "You disagree with my accusation?" Aitoralda asked, joining the traitor as they returned to the stairs. "I honestly can't decide if he's a fool or a DarkFriend," Yoeli said. "He'd have to be one or the other to not put together the truth from the winter, those clouds, and the rumors that Althor has conquered half the world." "Then you have nothing to fear," Aitoralda said. "You won't be executed." "I killed my countrymen," Yoeli said. "Staged a revolt against my queen's appointed leader and seized command of the city, though I've not a drop of noble blood." "That'll change the moment Tenobia returns, I warrant," Aitoralda said. "You've earned yourself a title for certain." Yoeli stopped in the dark stairwell, lit only from above and below. "I see that you do not understand. I have betrayed my oaths and killed friends. I will demand execution, as is my right." Aitoralda felt a chill. Bloody borderlanders, he thought. "Swear yourself to the dragon. He breaks all oaths. Do not waste your life. Fight beside me at the last battle." "I will not hide behind excuses, Lord Aitoralda," the man said, continuing down the steps. "No more than I could watch your men die. Come, let us see to the housing of those Ashaman. I would like very much to see these gateways you speak of. If we could use them to send messages out and bring supplies in, this could be a very interesting siege indeed." Aitoralda sighed, but followed. They didn't speak of fleeing by way of the gateways. Yoeli wouldn't abandon his city. And considering it, Aitoralda wouldn't abandon Yoeli and his men. Not after what they'd gone through to rescue him. This was as good a place as any to make a stand. Better than many a situation he'd been in lately. That was for certain.